Well, good evening and thank you for coming to the Upstate Artists Guild for a discussion about painting. I am very grateful to the Upstate Artists Guild for the opportunity to show my work as a featured artist, and was pleasantly surprised when I got an email asking me to give some sort of lecture on it. I'm also a bit challenged. While I have written some very personal and emotionally intimate emails and letters about painting, I've never really publicly shared my thoughts on the subject. I am a relatively new painter compared to a number of folk whose work has adorned these walls in the back room, and I am very unschooled in the art. I have been very blessed to have what talent God has given me, and I do not take it for granted. Painting has offered me a new path of living and has given me a bit of a new outlook on life. I will be honest and say that this has not been an easy time in my life. I lost my state job a few years ago, and I have not been able to find a meaningful full-time work. 4 years ago my marriage ended, and I found myself single again, after hubristically believing that I would be married forever. The same year I turned 40, I found out that I needed bifocals. And I have experienced some very, very low emotional moments in my life. That's just one side of the balance sheet. On the other side are two great things in my life. My daughter, who I love more than any human being in the world, and painting. What I'll try to do here is give a quick background of my painting experience and influences, and then talk a bit more about the fun aspect of painting, reflected in the title of the lecture, The Passion. I'll talk a little bit about the show in the back room, This Painter's Love, and lastly I'll give a glimpse of what is to come. I actually began painting, first with watercolors and then eventually with acrylics, in the mid-1990s, while living 10 months at my parents' home in Augusta, Georgia. I left Washington, D.C. after 3 years there because I had to get out. I moved to Atlanta and then to Augusta and was waiting for a position in the newly elected Pataki administration. So we're talking about 1995. It took a year from the governor's election to get hired. I worked between February and September of 1995 as a dishwasher at a local lunch restaurant in Augusta. It was one of the greatest jobs I ever had. I had never been in better physical shape. But it had greater significance. In the bathroom at Harriet's Kitchen was a really faded print or reproduction of a painting by Paul Gauguin. This painting led me to look up Gauguin, whose work interested me for its colors and for the fact that he eventually left Europe and became a self-described savage in the Polynesian islands. About a year after discovering that painting, I learned of, bought, and then read The Moon and Sixpence by Somerset Maugham, which is the fictional account of Gauguin's life. I was hooked on him. I picked up Noah Noah and Writings of a Savage, and as a new painter, Gauguin was my gateway drug. In Augusta, I started to dabble with watercolors. In New York City, while living on a small west side apartment of a friend, I continued with watercolors. In Albany, I moved to acrylics. I was unschooled, so they were crude, primitive, and barbaric, but they made great Christmas gifts. I continued painting till about 1999, when I fell in love, started grad school, and prepared for a life of domestic bliss. I was also a bit intimidated because my fiancée was also a great artist in her own right, and I stopped painting. There was an 8-year lull, and then in the fall of 2007, I was living on my own home, my new home, which I nicknamed the Cloister, and I was asked in a phone conversation by my old high school friend why I had stopped painting. I explained what I just told you, and he said I should pick it up again. First, he said it might be good for me, and then, as a single guy, it's a great way to meet women. At the time, I was already trying to write a novel, and had written a few short scripts, and they involved scenes of making an egg cream on and then drinking it off the body of a beautiful redhead. So my first new painting, done in all blue scale, was called The Philogynist. And it had a table with a book, an egg cream, an empty bookshelf, and a woman sleeping on a bed. On a lark, I submitted it to the UAG in December of 2007 for the Bedroom Community Show, and it was surprisingly accepted. I was on my way. Later in 2008, I got bored working with acrylics and moved into oils. So that's a brief history of my initiation into painting. What I really wanted to focus on, though, is the why I paint and what it gives me. Each of us who is an artist creates for myriad personal reasons, for self-fulfillment, recognition, money, sex. I paint primarily because it is a way to release and express my passion. And for those who know me personally, I can seem very social, very affectionate, sometimes surly, even perhaps a bit shallow on the surface. But underneath it all is a very, very passionate man. I am a very passionate person who finds difficulty expressing that passion. It comes out more in writing, it comes out in poetry, and it really comes out in painting. Painting is a very sensual experience for me. Each time I pick up the brush to work on a new piece, there may be music playing or it may be quiet. I become absorbed in the work. I allow myself to become lost both in the story or the subject of the painting and in the very physical process of painting. Of opening up and squeezing out paints from tubes, of mixing the paints, of taking that first dip of the brush into the paint and laying it on canvas. Sometimes I will have a glass of wine or perhaps a glass of whiskey in my hand. Sometimes I will have Leonard Cohen or the Velvet Underground or Bob Dylan playing. When it is quiet, I enjoy hearing the sound of the bristles on the wood. I enjoy the smells of oils in combination with the smell of the freshly primed wood. I appreciate the way the colors start to work in concert to create whatever vision I am painting. I become energized, and if I am painting a scene inspired by a muse or beautiful woman who is in my head, I become erotically charged and empowered. So painting allows me in ways to express myself physically when I am reticent to do so in other situations. But there is more to that. More to the passion than that. There is the passion of the storytelling and the passion of the connection between myself and my artistic muse at the moment. Painting has been a way of communicating for me, of reaching out, touching, even in a very spiritual way, making love to the muse. Even if the participation of the woman in the painting is passive, I still consider each painting to be a collaboration. Somehow, through discussion, perhaps just a word or a vision, even if they sit for me, a muse is part of the creative process. The new armchair paintings / photos that I will work on over the next year will be very collaborative, for they involve the active participation of the model muse sitting in the chair. And I will make sure she knows that. No muse for whom I have painted or whom I have painted has not been informed of their contribution. Everyone has been thanked in some way or another. And this show, the one in the back room, this show is my Valentine to those women who have been involved. Both those who are represented on the canvas in the back and those whose paintings hang elsewhere. It is a Valentine to all of them. None of them are lovers. All of them I consider great friends. Each friendship is special to me. Some women who have been muses are not muses anymore, and some I do not communicate with as much as I used to. But they are always in my heart, and their inspiration is immortalized in paint. These pieces will hopefully outlive them and me by well over 100 years. There is one painting series to which I am deeply emotionally connected. It is not simply because of the inspiration, it is also because it kind of represents my own personal and spiritual odyssey. And that is the Road Trip 1955 series. Part of it has been shown at the Lark Street Bid in August last year. A good number of pieces have been shown at the Wine Bar in October. And about half of the paintings in this show, all but one of them are new since October. Half of those paintings are from the Road Trip series. The Road Trip 1955 series is the closest thing I come to revealing my soul. While I am not represented in most of these paintings, I am most surely there. In the room, off to the side, going out to get the burgers for the women in the paintings. The paintings reflect my passion for friendship with women, my passion for painting, for exploration, for sex. They can be perceived as mythology or fantasy, but in some ways they also project, metaphorically, a future. I don't seek to escape from reality, my friends. I seek to reinvent it in the here and now. And that's one of the purposes that my paintings serves. And the beauty of this series is that it can go on for as long as I want it to. And as represented in paintings like The Show, The Naughty Muse, Motel Mirror, and even Dulcinea, I think it is going to get more erotic and more elusive. I've already completed 2 pieces that are going in that direction. One is called Stroke, which is a companion piece to Brushstroke and involves the lower half of the Muse's figure. Another is called Torture, which has a bit more of an allusion to a kinkier lifestyle, all set in the desert and motels of America in 1955. I do want to end this talk by going back to what I discussed at the beginning. I had said that I was lost, hurt, jobless, felt very unloved, and was not sure what direction I was going. Well, there is one person who is very close to me, who is not a lover, but is a confidant. In some of my darkest days, this person pretty much embraced me and told me that I was indeed this painter. She has influenced a lot of my work and has influenced my path. She handed me the brush and said, "Paint." And that's also the reason why I decided to put this painting right here on the lectern. Sorry. While this show is dedicated to all of my muses, I owe a special debt to her because I do believe that she knows me in a way that no one else does. So, I end the talk with the haiku on the wall in the back, and then we'll be glad to take questions if anyone has any. My muse knows my soul, mythologized in oils, and laid bare on the wood. Thank you. And I will take questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
I just have a comment saying you love the redheads.
Oh, thank you. We share that mutual...
I love my redheads. So.
Redheads are a special thing. Mark Twain had that great quote. I think he said, while mankind is descended from apes, redheads are descended from cats. Lucille Ball had another great one. It said every man should be allowed. Every man should fall in love with one. Is entitled to fall in love with one redhead in his life. My response is I think I've overdrawn. But and of course, the redhead thing's more of a bit of a spiritual thing. And, I won't say whether my key muse is a redhead or not, but she is in Fordland there.
Fordland.
Or the desert. As opposed to a Fordlandia, which was that little Amazonian place where Henry Ford tried to set up his factory for building tires. I don't know if you ever. There's a great book about that I haven't read yet.
So, Ford, there's a hierarchy to the muses.
There's a hierarchy?
Well, I'm asking you.
I don't know if it's really a hierarchy. There's one that is, kind of transcends, but that's just because the person's more of a confidant as well. And everyone gets treated pretty much, everyone else gets treated pretty much equally. So I guess there's a little bit of a hierarchy. Some, I never out them. Oh. They either to preclude your question of who they are, they can voluntarily out themselves. Because it's just it's a painting. It's an intimate thing. Some people, for various reasons, don't want it to be known that they're muses for whatever reason. But that's kind of, I think I said it at the last show. That's kind of the fun thing about it too. Somebody had asked me about painting faces and why you don't see their faces. And that's 2 reasons. One, I'm not really skilled at it to do justice to the beauty of the faces. But at the same time, and I need to work on that. But at the same time, there's also a bit of fun in the mystery of not seeing their faces and not knowing who they are. And I don't want to sound hubristic, but it's the same concept as not knowing who, until recently, not knowing who the muse was for the Mona Lisa, or not knowing who Beethoven's Immortal Beloved is. It's just fun in painting to have secrets and to have mystery. So there's no intentional hierarchy. I try to treat people as well. Everyone gets treated appropriately by me. And with absolute serious gratitude for whatever they offer, any time that's offered to me. And as I said, the next thing is going to be the armchair series. The wonderful artist who was in the side room, Callie De La Cruz, graciously sat for me, and she has adorned my walls. And the pilot painting where I had did a painting and then cut out a photograph and decoupaged it on to the wood. And I've been thinking of this idea and doing it for 2 years. I finally got around to getting one going. Unfortunately, I learned that Mod Podge doesn't work well with photo paper. That I probably ought to use regular paper, because the decoupage worked well like with the Anchor Steam label. And I have another painting called Bohemian Burger, which is a woman sitting in a chair, and I was really poor, had no cash. But what I did was I took my Pioneer bank statement, which had 50 cents on it, and I decoupaged it onto the painting. So that one will. So I called it Bohemian Burger, and the burger is on two pieces of white bread with some ketchup and like yellow, like Kraft cheese. So it's really a poor man's burger. So that one will be shown probably at. I'll probably take it down to Beacon, and then it'll be shown at the Bid in August. So it's good. It's actually been a fun year, and I've actually been honored that people have been so receptive to my paintings. The wine bar has been gracious. Friends of mine who have been very supportive and have actually bought pieces. I'm still at a stage in painting where you're not confident, and when people say, like, I want to buy a piece, you're like, really? Because it's a little show. Well, it was the same reaction I had when I first found out I got in the UAG show. That was the first painting I painted in a while, in 8 years, and they put it in the show. I said, really? So it's going to be a fun year. I got the show at Poppy's Burgers down in Beacon. That's the reception's in May 21st. I'm sure there'll be a good number of burger and nude paintings in there, plus some road trip paintings. Then in August, I'm next door at the Bid on August 5th, and I'm back at the wine bar in October. So so it'll be a fun year, and I'm very grateful to UAG for being so supportive of me. I wish that something had sold because I'm in arrears for my my member dues, but that'll be taken care of too. That's pretty much it. Yes, ma'am.
When you use your muses, do you paint from life, or do you take photographs, like reference photographs?
3 different ways I do it. I do photographs because no one ever has the time to sit for sketches anymore. I mean, everyone is so busy. But I mostly use photographs because then I can go back and refer to them, and I have a whole... I mean, I could do a whole show with Callie because I've taken so many photographs. And there's another young lady who will be whose modeling career is going. Her name is Jenny Black. She's going to be in a thing. I could do a whole bunch of paintings just with her because I took so many photos. It's easier and convenient. A lot of times a lot of times the images that you have there, especially the motel ones, are all up here. So that's where a lot of it seems to be.
It's a good photo.
Oh, me doing that?
I chose that one.
So, was that?
Yes.
That make sense? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
You do a lot of series pictures, and
Series?
some of them series of pictures.
Yes.
And some of them you said kind of go over time for you to get them all done. Do you find it's hard to keep the passion going for that series before you can get through it? Is your mind already on the next one, and you're like?
Well, you mean like the road trip series, for example?
Well, whatever.
The road trip kind of almost. I can go and do other things. Like I'm going to do the photo painting, the decoupage photo armchair series, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix that up. So I have various ideas. When Callie and I shot, we started off doing a theme that's similar to the one with the housewife, and they're in the kitchen. So we started off with polka dots and pearls.